Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am just going to present a brief overview, high level, of where we're at with possible teacher compensation conversations. So I will, dang it, I did that. All right, sorry, Jason. Any of them? Okay, gotcha. I hit this. So last year, just as an overview, we were able to take a zero-year teacher, increase their salary from $54,000 to $58,236. And as a reminder, that is a teacher that works 187 days a year. We came up to that salary level just to be competitive with our surrounding districts. So that at least, it looks like a big jump, but that's where we need it to be competitive. Overall, the teachers, administrators, and the staff received an average of a 6% salary increase, which was great. The budget impact for the increases were $444,000 for the 6% increase and including benefits, as well as a $120,000 increase for the athletic stipends. Okay. This year, we have our eye on Senate Bill 9. At this point, it is early in the stages. It has passed the Senate and is in committee as of today, so we don't know where this is going to land. Senate Bill 9 consists of many pieces, but the portion that we're most concerned with is where they are dictating what the salary increase might be for a teacher next year. We would fall under the section of under 20,000 students where it would state that we need to increase a salary by $6,000 per classroom teacher. The issue with this is that the state, the way that we're reading it, and this isn't just Sandy reading it, I have reached out to Janet, the attorney from the academy side as well. It seems as if though it would be funded for 1 year, but after that, then we would have to sustain that salary increase.
Funded from the state?
Yes, sir.
And is that for all? Is that just for classroom teachers, or anyone in the school? Like, is it basically for like frontline teachers? Is it designed for?
When it's mandated, they will say classroom teachers. Sometimes the law will come across and be very specific with it. Right now, it's reading very general as a classroom teacher with that $6,000. So we have a couple things going on here. If it were passed, we have to say, does this really pertain to a charter school? Most of the other sections of Senate Bill 9 are very clear that it is charter school and public school, or all the way that it's reading. This particular section is not very clear. So if it were to pass, which is one thing that we have to wait on, then we have to see if it really does pertain to a charter school. However, if it passes and it does not pertain to a charter school, but our surrounding school districts then increase their salary, we're still having to look at something too.
Yeah, that would put us at a disadvantage.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, what conversations, if any, have we had with our legislature?
Recently, I have not talked to them yet.
Okay.
But we should go talk to them.
And then what is the chance that TEA is going to up their per student?
That's in discussion as well.
Yeah, that's
somewhat
really
yes.
important.
A little bit. Of course, any legislative year, we're waiting till the last minute to see what is passed. So I guess the good thing around us is that most of the districts do have more than 20,000 students, so their increase would be at $2,000 versus the $6,000 increase that's being proposed at this time.
Yeah, I mean, does Keller, Southlake, and Northwest? Well, Northwest does, but Keller and Southlake are under 20,000 though.
Bel-Air had 35,000 a few years ago, so I would,
they're saying, or students, it's a student population.
student
Huh,
population,
okay.
yes. I haven't seen their figures lately, but I know a few years ago they were at 34,000, and Northwest is only growing as well.
What's the timing? When do we think?
So unless it goes into a special summer session, we're hoping by the end of May, early June, then they'll have a decision made.
And what you're saying, this is a one-time adjustment of 6,000, completely irrespective of what the current salary. For example, if it already were competitive or higher than average, it would still apply.
Correct.
But it's a one-time adjustment and then has to be maintained at that point forward.
Yes. So that's another thing that we're checking. Is this a one-time payment, which of course then you would not have to sustain over the years, or is it really on your salary that you'd have to sustain?
And is this for full teachers or teachers' aides too?
Not aides.
So,
It's reading classroom teacher, and then we could just stay competitive and raise salaries as needed for the rest of the staff.
so how many classroom type teachers do we have? About 75? Is that what it
Yes.
is? So it's about $450,000 forever into the base.
Yes.
And is the 6,000 just 6,000 for salary, or is it 6,000 total benefits?
For salary.
Oh, so it could be more.
Yes.
Is there more language than what you're showing us here? Because this is not entirely clear. And for example, it says that it's provided for the 2023-2024 school year, not ongoing, for example.
Right.
So-
And then C reads that the section would expire September
Right.
25. But Janet is looking into it a little further because the language is unclear. And she's reached out actually to other charter attorneys, charter school attorneys, just to see what they're looking at.
Right.
Again, the whole thing, it may not even pass,
May
but
not
we
happen.
have to have it in the back of our mind.
Can you what is the logic on smaller school districts having? What's the rationale there?
My Sandy assumption would be that they were probably looking at rural schools that are low on this scale, thinking that, oh, you're a smaller school and you'll need to jump up and be competitive. That was my only thought, because I couldn't think of any other reason that it would be less than 20,000. I read through the entire justification through it too, and I couldn't find any language as to why they were choosing that. I do know in one other section, I don't believe it's in Senate Bill 9, where they are requiring the minimum state salary to come up, but we are far above what the minimum state salary is.
Sandy, do you know if the state has ever done this in the past before?
Yes, they have. There was one year that I'm aware of where they mandated that in order to keep the newer teachers that have just started into the education world, and they wanted to maintain or retain them, they mandated that your 0 to 3 or 0 to 5 year teachers receive a raise. Well, that was, if you were going to give them a raise, you had to do the whole scale and give everybody end up, but they wanted to mandate a certain number or certain amount that they would have to give in order to retain those teachers. So it has come across before, and you're shuffling right at the end. If you remember last year by this time, we at least had some numbers to come forward because the districts moved quickly around us, determining what percentage they were going to give their staff, all staff. Right now, there are a lot of discussions, and most of the folks that I've reached out to said they're not discussing salaries at this point.
Sandy, the overarching issue, the problem they're trying to solve here is attrition?
Yes. That was the opening statement. On here, I just showed where the bill is as of today, and that was April 17th when it went into the Education Committee hearing. This, I know, is very hard to see. I just wanted you to see where I gathered some of this information from a local organization. Of course, we can contact districts, but that's what they've already done the legwork, so why repeat that? and I will zoom in on the next screen a little closer. I just wanted to show where we stand at this point, and it may look where I hit the arrow that we're 25th on that scale, but if you really take a look, the spread is not much. Keller ISD is at 59,000, Carroll at 58.6, and we're at 58.2. And also, I did want to list there, as a reminder, we do contribute, and I mentioned it before, but we do contribute more to the insurance portion than what our surrounding school districts do.
Roughly how much more do we do? Like $1,000 more? Or?
No, so per month, the contribution rate for school districts, I want to say there's a mandate of $225. Most of the surrounding school districts are $275, maybe $300, and we contribute $429 a month for
So
their...
we're $200 more. So overall, if we were to include that in, we would be towards the top.
Sure. It's just where do you want to show it?
Right.
And sometimes for some folks, like I mentioned before, they prefer to see it on their salary versus benefits if they're not really picking up that benefit.
Mr. Mayor, I hope we go talk to our, like just across the board. I mean, no meritocracy or the better teachers get paid more. This is across the board. And then getting back to my question about, like, what is our teacher attrition this year?
Dr.
Sean?
Wilson?
Yeah, this year. Sorry for the thought.
For the current year, I believe we have lost only one teacher and a counselor twice. So attrition for this year has been
Very low. That's what I thought.
And have you already done your commitments for next year?
And we did intent to returns for next year, and I believe that number was closer to 95%.
Excellent.
Yep. We'll keep an eye on that. Of course, some things are out of our hand, families moving, etc.
But it's a good general indicator, right?
Sure.
I would wager to say that was the highest intent to return in several years for our school.
Excellent.
And moving, again, very preliminary numbers, but just so that we can jot these down and keep it in mind that a 2% increase would run about $158,000. Last year, of course, I know was a big jump with a 6% increase, but you can see the spread there.
So I saw some articles that some of the surrounding districts were having a much higher turnover rate. And then also, in some cases, I saw that there was a chance that they might be reducing some positions. Are you hearing or seeing anything about that? Or
I've heard with one of the districts, they have cut back on a lot of the positions. And it's not necessarily classroom teachers, but maybe some of these instructional coaches, kind of your in-between. You have your classroom teacher, but not necessarily administrators. So they're looking at some of those positions to cut back and then have people go back into the classroom. But they are also looking at different types of schedules where some schedules seem more beneficial towards a student, maybe a block schedule or something, but just how can we utilize that FTE to go further and cover more classes. So that's a difference in where they're trying to save some money there. Northwest is still growing, so they're opening campuses. It's hard to really compare apples to apples because we are landlocked. We're not necessarily at that growth compared to our other districts.
Andy, I think I've asked, of course, we've talked about getting with Casey here, Wade coming in, getting metrics in place for the town and school that we talked about opening our council meetings. Do we have a good comparison other IB schools, teacher attrition, other independent school districts, just so we have a bar to measure against? Do we have that data?
We did some research last year, and the state will also do it through their taper report.
Okay.
So we can pull it up and see statewide what is
Yeah.
it. So they'll give you a state percentage, and then per district percentage as well.
I would love when we talk about that in the future, that we talk about other IB schools and surrounding areas. I mean, we have a great story to tell, but I would like some frame of reference on
Some benchmarking?
Yeah, because I saw the same thing on the news about the teacher attrition across the state is very high. They're having trouble finding teachers. And that's obviously very concerning. I'm glad we are where we are, but I'd like to just have that reference point.
Yes.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Any questions?
Any questions?
No, we need to get well.
Yeah, no, we will. Hey, Sean, is there a lobbying group or a reach out group that obviously people are a charter school association that goes out and
Yeah.
Yes. So the Texas Charter School Association is actually working hard at, one, ensuring that charter schools are properly represented when it comes to teacher pay raises, as well as when it comes to policies that may impact charter schools. So just this year alone, I believe there were a few hundred bills that were out there. Of those, I believe there are 40 of them that could possibly impact charter schools. Some of those have since been either withdrawn or removed. And so the ones that are currently active are still in play. They are definitely advocating on behalf of charter schools and making sure that our voice is heard. There are a few items. One of them being teacher salary is the conversation around whether that should be school-born or if that's a state-born dollar. So there is active active advocacy on behalf of charter schools to ensure that we are not being left out of the conversation when it comes.
And then, Sandy, I don't know, do schools here ever do like anything with vesting for 401ks to ensure people try to stay longer and stuff like that? You know, in private corporations, you know, they'll vest, you know, stuff over 3 to 5 years, trying to keep people to stay in place, right, unless turnover.
So not being an attorney, but I would say one of the things, if we're contributing dollars, that we have to be careful with a gift of public funds. So I don't know as far as the schools, I'm not familiar with schools contributing towards 403Bs, because they are a 403B, but we have also at least started up a 457 with the academy, just trying to get them to invest, which is a great question because all they have is TRS and no Social Security.
And do we contribute, like
Do we match?
Yeah,
We do not. We don't, but it's something to look into, the wording. Are you familiar with it in Texas?
No.
Okay. She's going to throw out Louisiana. But that would be the only thing that would come to mind right away, is just as far as that piece of it, but it's something to look into as another benefit.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's actually just one last question. You mentioned the difference in the healthcare contributions. Is there any other major difference in benefits that neighboring ISDs, even other charter schools, would provide that we're not providing, or vice versa?
Schools, reimbursement type stuff?
Yeah, just any other
Perks.
benefit. I mean, you mentioned the retirement
Yeah.
contributions. I'm just to make sure we just have a fair comparison.
Sure.
Total benefits and salary.
Right off the bat, I'm not. I mean, but that would be something to start. Actually, one of the bills that is coming out is just reimbursing for certain certifications.
Okay.
If it's mandatory that, and we'd like for them to go out there and get that, or they just want to enhance their education, that it be reimbursed by the district.
You know, last year, Dr. Bryson had a chart that she drew out of all our teachers by number of years. 100, whatever, it was 106. You can show, 20 were 0 to 3. Do we have a chart like that still for the length of our tenure, our baskets?
Sure, we can pull that up. It's not hard.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of useful to understand, the demographics of our teachers. Are they older teachers, younger teachers? What's going to appeal to them more, right? Is the 401k or is the money up front, right?
Right.
And so that's all I got. You guys have anything else?
No, we're good.
All right, I overplanned. I thought this was going to take a lot longer. So
Can we do more photos?
We can do that. Sure. All right, that's the end of work session.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sandy.
And we